So we're now talking about individuals, of course, and I know you've said many times that mindsets are holding learning back.
Yes.
So what are some of the mindsets that learning leaders need to develop in order to face the brave new world of learning and development?
Well, it's the really simple thing is to shift from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. And a growth mindset is a mindset that welcomes change, sees that their own development as part of the bigger picture of development of the organisation, is optimistic about the future, has a vision for a way better future, and not that everything's getting worse and more difficult, and is prepared to speak up and implement that. So I think that is the critical mindset shift. If you've got a fixed mindset, I'm skilled, I know what I'm doing, I want to continue doing it, I don't want to be undermined, I don't want to be told what to do, I don't really want to hand over any of my power and responsibility because that makes me comfortable. It's a deadly position to be in, and it's probably the exit door is beckoning.
Well, oftentimes L&D spend so much time worrying about everyone else and their learning that they often forget to take care of themselves.
That's absolutely
and their
true.
own learning. So what would you recommend in terms of starting points for people to take care of their own learning needs?
Just, I suppose, three absolutely fundamental things. The first is reflection, that build in reflection in your week. And there's no way that anyone can't find 20 minutes a week, maybe in 2 lots of 10 minutes, to just quietly think about what they're doing. And if they could do that every day, even better. And just to be conscious workers and to begin to work out loud and reflect on their practice and make it better. The second thing is just to tune in with the industry, find out what's going on in other organizations. And in this online world, there's no excuse for isolating yourself. You know, read a few blogs, get onto Twitter, find out what's happening, find some key people, find some key companies that you admire or seem to be moving in a direction you'd like to move, and you can begin a dialogue or at least keep in touch with those organizations. And just keep that dialogue amongst your team. Keep everyone talking and discussing. You know, I remember working with Southwest Airlines and their learning and development team. They had themes every quarter, and they'd say, right, who wants to find out about this? And someone would say, oh, I'll find out. Who wants to find out about that? Oh, I'll do that. So each person took on a little research responsibility, and they went away and they went and found out and they talked to people, and they came back with not just this is what's going on, but this is what's going on, this is whether, this is how we could use it, and I think we should, or I'm not sure, or I don't really think we should, with a firm recommendation. And that created some really interesting dialogue, and just keeping everyone alive and talking and aware of that there is a world out there was incredibly valuable for the whole output of the team, not just on the development stuff. But so many teams never do that. They rely on individuals to do it off their own bat, or they kind of punish people for, why are you wasting your time playing around with that stupid app? You know, you should be doing your work. It's just such a negative connotation, and people like learning. We are learning beings, and learning should like learning. But sometimes learning doesn't like learning, and that's when I get really scared.
A lot of people end up in learning and development through a very circuitous route.
They do, yeah.
They're often really good at doing something, and then they get asked to train other people on how to do it, and they find themselves by accident in a learning role. What are the steps that people who are new to the profession can take to catch up with what's happening and get ahead of the curve?
Yeah, well, just to give you an example about that, when I started teaching at the University of Pennsylvania on the CLO doctoral program, and the first cohort, we asked them, I think there were only 16 people coming through to do their doctorates, we asked them to describe their learning journey that got them to where they were, which is senior people in learning, you know, executive vice president and above. And there was no possible coherent pattern at all. It was really interesting. So the idea that you want to be a learning leader, this are the 3 steps you take. It doesn't really work like that, and it's almost getting more diverse. So, you know, if you're in learning, I think it's very important that you don't just be in learning. If you work for a company, be obsessed with that company, find out what they do, how they do it, learn their language, be part of it, and just be an active self-developer. Ultimately, we need everybody to self-develop. We need them to be pleased and proud to maintain their skills and standards. I always say to people, how many MOOCs have you taken? And even though MOOCs are kind of everywhere, the vast majority of people have looked at them, maybe enrolled for them, maybe even did one thing, but not actually done a MOOC.
That's me, totally.
Is it right? Well, you know, take a MOOC. You know, there's such interesting stuff now, and they're getting shorter. So they're, you know, they're 20 hours or something like that. We can find 20 hours over 20 weeks. You can do that. So just get into that kind of learning, new learning experience, new learning ideas and content. Just be curious, spark your own curiosity, and take the plunge. And learning people are slightly embarrassed about exposing their own learning. Supposing I can't do it. Supposing it's too hard. Supposing I fail. I'm a learning person who's failed at learning. And you've just got to swallow it and do it and step out there. And engage. You know, what book did you last read? And you meet people who haven't read books for years. Read a book. Try it. It's amazing. You know, you learn how to do a lot of stuff through books. Start engaging people on specific topics. Now, if you say, look, let's have a lunchtime once a month focusing on a different issue in L&D, even if people haven't researched it deeply, there will be enough people who've suddenly ears pricked up, try and find out a little bit, to have a pretty rewarding discussion. But if you don't have those lunches, you don't have the discussion, you don't have the learning, and you don't have the insights.
Well, we're talking about books. Do you have a couple of books that you would recommend as must-reads for L&D professionals?
Yes. I think that the emotional intelligence guy, Daniel Goldman, that Daniel Goldman has written a book about focus. It's called Focus, and it's really interesting. And it's basically saying, in this world where we're taught to millisecond flick from thing to thing, that he's saying the successful people are the ones who learn to focus. And I really love Focus. I think it's a very simple, straightforward book. And, you know, I would read anything by Daniel Pink. You know, that all of his books are very, very interesting. And, you know, about motivation, about selling, about the way organizations work. So just put Daniel Pink in, and they're pretty easy reads. But if you want a hard book, but an unbelievably brilliant book, it's Kahneman's Thinking Fast and Thinking Slow.
Yes.
Kahneman is brilliant. I don't think he makes many allowances for his reader. He just says it like it is. But it's a big fat book, but the logic is brilliant. It's brilliant, and it changed the way I thought about thinking. So Thinking Fast, Thinking Slow by Daniel Kahneman, an unbelievable book. So they're just three off the top of my head, which I think could be really insightful and valuable and worth the effort. And start reading. And people say, oh, I haven't got time for reading. I always say to them, commit for 2 weeks to reading 1 page a day. 1 page a day. Can you commit to reading 1 page of a book a day? Yeah, I can. Do it. Not every other day. Every day, commit to 1 page for 2 weeks. 14 days on the trot, 14 pages. Will you do that? I've never met anyone who hasn't used that. That's the lead. That gets them going.